in one of the most wildest, unpredictable, twist and turns like 24 hours news cycle in the history of this franchise, Sarah, that you've been covering for close to 2 decades, that I've been covering for close to 1 decade. The Ravens no longer are in on Maxx Crosby, and instead, in what has flipped the entire NFL world upside down since we were last live, they have pivoted. Maxx has failed his physical according to multiple national reports. The trade is off. They've pivoted as of this morning to Trey Hendrickson, who remains in the AFC North pending a physical come 4 p.m. Eastern when the new league year begins. Lamar Jackson's contract has been restructured according to multiple reports. The Ravens have lost a boatload of free agents in free agency, and we've got a lot to discuss as a result. There is Celsius intake. There is limited sleep, and there is Sarah Ellison, who gets her first chance to address all of this. Needless to say, I've been talking enough, and the floor is yours as we begin the show on Wednesday, March 11th. The new league year begins at 4 p.m. Eastern. Welcome inside the vault for a Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. I'm Bobby Trossett, as always, joined by my co-host and partner, Sarah Ellison. If you could on the way in, please like the video, subscribe, hit that notification bell, consider becoming a channel member or gift-giving membership. Super chats are flying in the form of gifts, in the form of 50 spots. We'll get to those in just a bit. And Kelsey Conway, for her Cincinnati perspective, joins us in just over 20 minutes' time. How are you?
This is insane. This is insanity, Bobby. Yes, 20 years of covering the Ravens. There's been some crazy stuff here and there, but this takes the cake. This transcends Baltimore. This transcends NFL. You're going to see other sports franchises talking about it. I mean, it's going to be cover to cover. I had a friend who's not even into football and said she went on Google and she went to go type something in, but like, you know how it like tells you, it feeds you stories. She never looks at NFL stuff. She's like, did you know the Ravens backed out of a deal? And like it transcends everything. It's insane. And here's the question, Bobby, as we go through this, that we all need to ask ourselves. Are the Ravens in a better situation than they were 15 hours ago? 15 hours ago, because you no longer have Maxx Crosby, who we were all elated to hear Friday night. I came on the show 12:30 Saturday morning after our Friday night activities, and Baltimore was partying, so happy to know that Maxx Crosby was coming here, and they were fine with losing the 2 draft picks, the 2 first-round draft picks. Then all of a sudden, we see Maxx Crosby, he's celebrating with Shabuzi and everybody else. He's super happy. He comes to Baltimore. He's on IG. He's showing M&T Bank Stadium. He's looking like he's ready for this change. He's a new man, ready for it all. And like that, just like that, it's over. We're going to talk later on about what really happened, what was really going on behind the scenes. But now you have your first 2 draft picks back. And then you pivoted. The Ravens pivoted so quickly and went ahead and got the second best edge defender that was available, which is Trey Hendrickson. And Bobby, there were a bunch of teams trying to get him. And Ravens are like, forget that. Just dropped a bomb in Las Vegas. After they drop a bomb in Las Vegas, they run over here, drop a bomb on all the people. Eagles, I don't know. They're like 5 teams. We've got to slide down here in a minute. Drops a bomb on all of them and said, nope, we'll be taking Trey Hendrickson along with our 2 draft picks back. And oh, by the way, to top it off, one of the most polarizing quarterbacks in all of NFL, we're going to go ahead and restructure his contract, open up $40 million, which now the Ravens, according to Spot Rack, are close to having $70 million. I can't remember a time ever covering the Ravens when they had $70 million in March and they had their 2 first-round draft picks back. This is insane. And that is why you have to ask yourselves, you better be ready, for the Ravens are going to be viewed by many as the villain. There's also plenty of people saying the Ravens did nothing wrong. We will dive into all of that. So they're going to be known as a villain by some. They're going to be known as, hey, they did nothing wrong. It's always pending a physical until the dotted line. This has happened before. It's going to happen again. This isn't the first. It won't be the last. So this is what's funny, though. They're like, nobody's going to want to do business with the Ravens. And then an hour later, Trey Hendrickson, the report is that he's coming to Baltimore. That's not how these things work. Maybe some people will not love the way it went down. Some people will be like, hey, if they saw something medical wise, it's whatever. But the bottom line is Bobby, I'm not going to say Trey Hendrickson is better than Maxx Crosby. An injured Maxx Crosby? Probably. Maxx Crosby was a more all-around edge defender. He was better against the run. But Trey Hendrickson is bringing what the Ravens were missing, which is a pass rush. And they still have their 2 first-round picks. And now they have $70 million. And a big chunk of it is going to go to Trey Hendrickson. And so I honestly do think, are the Ravens better off? Again, Trey Hendrickson is not Maxx Crosby, but he does still check off a big need. And now somebody like Venga Yawene is right back in the fold if he falls to number 14. And so everything's in front of the Ravens. And while they might be the villains, I think they're in a better spot than they were 14 hours ago. What say you?
Well, I think public opinion, for starters, agrees with you. We're approaching 600 votes, and that is the question that we're asking today. Are the Ravens in a better overall situation than they found themselves in 24 hours ago, or as you put it, 15 hours ago? 76% so far, as we've already hit that 600 number, are yes. 24% say no. So go ahead and make your voice heard. How can I not agree with you, Sarah? You just laid it all out right there. And to chronicle the last 15 hours, you have to begin with this statement released by the Raiders via Ian Rappaport of NFL Network. And at 7:58, just as we're sitting down to go live on the Collective, the statement is in 2 sentences, reads, "The Baltimore Ravens have backed out of our trade agreement for Maxx Crosby. We will have no further comment at this time."
They were ticked, Bobby. They are ticked.
You're darn right. And guess what? I'd be pretty ticked too if I were the Ravens. Because maybe, just maybe, when it's all said and done, there won't be a legal tampering period again in NFL history after this. We'll see. That'll be a future discussion to be had by the league. And maybe it'll be pretty awkward at the owners' meetings in Florida coming up in the weeks ahead. But as Andrew Brandt, former NFL exec, noted, as you've noted, this is a business, man. And the Ravens have already conducted business this morning since this went final. And there sure seems to be a decent amount of credible reporting to express their confidence last night.
EDC did not look back.
He did not look back.
He immediately had Trey on the phone. He did not look back.
He did not look back, and he couldn't afford to look back. Maxx Crosby hasn't looked back either. There's some news out there, Sarah, from Albert Breer, that he was in the building at 6 a.m., meaning the Raiders facility, 6 a.m. this morning to resume rehab. The team brass reached out to him immediately after the trade died. And the general feeling, according to Breer, Crosby's a Raider and they want to move forward. We'll see about all that, and we'll get to the Crosby
Ravens
side of things.
didn't want to trade him in the first place, right? Like it was Maxx Crosby that pushed it because they shut him down due to the very injury that we're talking about, that he wanted to keep playing. And they're like, no, buddy, this is pretty serious with his meniscus, and we'll get into all that later. And so, like, it's one thing if you try to trade somebody because you push for it, not the player, and then it blows up, and then you're like, hey, you want to stay with us? No, it was Maxx that was pushing for it. So if the Raiders are good with it, Maxx Crosby should have no problem because they didn't want to push him out the door in the first place.
Yeah, we'll definitely revisit Pete Carroll's comments, the reporting around that December 26th press conference that shut down Maxx for the final 2 regular season games in Vegas, to your point, prior to all the upheaval, right? Pete Carroll was fired. They obviously hired Clint Kubiak after the Super Bowl, and everything that's unfolded from a Raiders stability standpoint in recent weeks. Listen to this from Ian Rappaport on NFL Network this morning. It puts both parties into the equation here and mentions both players. One former Raven who actually never officially became a Raven in Crosby, and the newest Raven as of 4 p.m. Eastern today in Hendrickson.
I would say this is a risk, right? So I had this conversation with the general manager last night to try to understand, like, what does this mean, right? Okay, so basically what the Ravens would theoretically do is they would take a bet, not a real bet, betting is bad, but take a bet on Maxx Crosby. You would say, we believe his knee is good, and I would bet $10. Would you bet $100? Okay, I would. What about $1,000? Sure, I would. Then it's like, what about your house? Would you bet your house? Like, would you bet all the money you have? That's really what it is for the Baltimore Ravens. So we can all talk about, well, they should have been comfortable. It's a projection, and, theoretically, they knew that it, had some ways to go, even though he's doing well. Yes, that is all true. But the Ravens needed to bet the house on Maxx Crosby, and they just, after the medical exams, after getting in there, after doing all the work that they had preliminary work, but yesterday afternoon was the real work. They did not believe the risk was worth it, so the deal was off. They pivoted to Hendrickson without knowing whether or not they were going to get him, and this morning, as we just reported, they got him.
And Sarah, as for the cold feet narratives and buyer's remorse, Rap Sheet also spoke on that this morning on NFL Network.
For the Baltimore Ravens, the term buyer's remorse is something that does come up a lot, not just from Tom, but certainly something I've heard in conversations with general managers and coaches last night. To that, I would say the Ravens wanted this to work. They wanted Maxx Crosby to be on their team. They wanted to send 2 first-round picks to the Raiders for the rights of one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. They wanted it all to happen, and when it seemed like it was falling apart, they still tried to make it work. They just were not comfortable with the medical. They were not comfortable that the player they believed they were acquiring was going to be at a point where he could play to the level that they all thought. It all sucks. There's a lot of blame, or whatever you want to say, responsibility to go around. But I think it is safe to say most people involved wanted this to happen. They just could not make this work.
Couple key things in there, right? Just in terms of the Ravens' interest, perhaps their good faith that they practiced throughout the process. And ultimately, Sarah, the gamble was long-term wise.
Right.
And we'll get to more of the medical side of things, and Adam Schefter's reporting, and how Dallas comes in, who are believed to be a part of these sweepstakes in the early part of the process for Crosby. We'll get into all those components a little bit later on in the program. But ultimately, they needed to make a decision with the organization's best interest in mind. And that's not just for the 2026 season, where Crosby may ball out for whoever he plays for. It's for the long term. And knowing that they would have had him for the foreseeable future, that has to be a collective decision from 1,000 feet up, with multiple years in mind, multiple visions in mind for what this defense will look like at the edge from a premier pass rusher standpoint. And do they take a step back, to your point, in Hendrickson, given the age, given the injury history, and given some of his limitations against the run? Yes, but you still get to keep your draft assets that are coveted pieces, including that 14th overall pick, where you can still address the trenches. We suspect they will do that, and that's something that they now have back in their pocket.
I loved Ian Rappaport's analogy with, like, when you bet on people. Yeah, I'll bet $1. Yeah, I'll bet $10, $100, $1,000. But your house, your life savings. And Bobby, here's what's interesting. Eric DaCosta has been criticized by this fan base, rightfully so, for taking chances on injured players, whether it's David Ajabo or Andrew Voorhees, although Andrew Voorhees, turned out to be a little bit better. But he's taken lots of chances on injured players in the name of value. And so when I came on Friday night after the Maxx Crosby trade news broke, I was very clear. This is going to hurt the Ravens' future. But if it means that you are trying to take advantage of some of the last prime years in Lamar Jackson's football career, now's the time where you got to take swings. And I praised Eric DaCosta for taking a swing. But because of the mortgage of your future, and it was going to hurt come 2028, then you better make sure when you swing, that ball goes out in the rafters, okay? It leaves the park. And if he comes on campus and you're like, wait a minute now, I did talk to Maxx. I talked to doctors, this and that. But now that I see it, I don't know that we're going to get the Maxx Crosby that we need to mortgage our future. If Maxx Crosby has no injury, then you're like, okay, Maxx, I'm going to bet on you. I'm betting my future on you. And when you're in that seat and you have to make that call, you don't do it haphazardly. And so there are 32 different teams with their own team doctors, and they all have their own risk assessment. And it's so easy for us out here who's not mortgaging our future, or maybe another fan base who for sure is using this to, come at Ravens fans. It's kind of funny. Even the Bills fans are like, how did they get it all involved? But they're around chirping, and it's so easy for you to say, hey, even though it's said in the contract that this is pending a physical, even though you both agreed to that, you should have went through with it anyway. Like, that was the deal. So, Bobby, if you and I make a deal and say, hey, we want to do a podcast together, but here's the one caveat we need to make sure on, and we both agree to that, then that's part of the deal. There's no dirtiness to that. It's all in good faith, both sides. This is what the caveat is. And I understand if I am a Raiders fan today, this is not, I'm not happy. I just lost 2. They have no leverage now. Because if they did resume trade talks with the Bears who were in on it and the Cowboys who were in on it, Cowboys are no longer in on it. If they did have those talks with them, but now they're like, wait a minute, he didn't pass the physical for the Ravens. So if we are going to do this, it's sure as heck isn't going to be 2 first-round picks. Do you even get a first-round pick? And so at this point, they're like, well, it's just better for us to keep Maxx then. Now, I get it. They spent, I think, $200 million over the last couple of days thinking that Maxx would be gone. But they still have the cap space. But I get it puts them in a bad spot. But the Ravens are not in a great spot either. They lost almost a dozen free agents, and they have $70 million. But outside of Trey Hendrickson, a lot of the top guys are gone. So it's not like the Ravens wanted it to go down this way. They would have preferred to go ahead and finish the deal. But when you mortgage your future, you have to be 1,000%. You have to be 1,000% sure that he's healthy, because there's still risk involved anyway. If that's the caveat of the deal and you're not comfortable with what you saw based off of what your doctors are telling you, then the deal doesn't go through. And that's what both sides agreed to going into this.
And now the deal that's on the table in the form of a 4-year contract worth up to 120, meaning 120 million for Hendrickson, is what we're now working with and what the Ravens and Hendrickson's camp have agreed to. That includes 60 million fully guaranteed and a $20 million signing bonus. Schefter also has some of the fine print here and incentives for 8, 10, 12, and 14 sacks per season. He also gets an additional $500,000 for each threshold he meets. Now, one thing that we'll talk to Kelsey Conway about is what limited him to being shut down in October this past season. Just 7 games, a handful of sacks, after going into the 25 year as the reigning sack getter, having posted back-to-back 17.5 sack campaigns, first in 23, then in 24. We'll learn more about her perspective there. He had 2 significant injuries in the month of October, significant enough that the Bengals shut him down. So you get a player that, yes, is 31, yes, is coming off an injury-riddled season, but the production as recently as 2024 was among, if not the league's best at the sack position. Someone who's going to be motivated, who remains a part of the AFC North Division, where he spent his last 5 years as a member of the Cincinnati Bengals. And maybe, just maybe, because of his limitations there against the run, you're going to be relying heavily on one number 92 who could potentially run it back in Nnamdi Madubuike. Also, while knowing that Travis Jones has earned his contract extension, You've got depth there with John Jenkins, the veteran, a young player in Aeneas Peebles who they want to develop. And that's the current situation for them right now. So, yeah, the more I process our question today, they are in a better situation given the circumstances that we now know, a lot of which is reported medical insight from both the Ravens' perspective and the Dallas perspective and others, where there was long-term effects and long-term potential risk given the draft compensation that was attached to this deal from Friday night into the wee hours of Saturday morning. And I think public opinion agrees. We are approaching 1,000 votes in today's live chat poll question. Are the Ravens in a better situation that they found themselves in 24 hours ago? And 79% of you say yes. 21% of you say no. Partner, we have 31 super chats.
Let's rip as many as we can until Kelsey gets here. How about that?
Kelsey joins us in 3 minutes. Appreciate you guys so much for being with us. If you could like the video today, we'd appreciate it. That'll help the algorithm and shoot this thing out to other Ravens fans who maybe have not yet discovered what it is that we're doing here inside the vault. Douglas H. Brown Sr. certainly has, and he's with us. He got us started 10 minutes prior to the show with a 50 spot and writes, "Woo! So happy to finally be home for a week or so to be able to catch you two live. Been an incredible spring so far as work goes. I am so busy at age 70. We have been so busy that we haven't had a chance to read your email yet, but we've seen it pop up in the inbox. We appreciate you, and we appreciate this 5-spot donation as well. 5 new channel memberships, 5 new channel Vaultrons, thanks to DHB Senior on a busy, unique Wednesday, Sarah. That brings us to King Sosa.
He says, Bobby, we sleep on business. Trust it. And Sarah, killing it as always. What player do you think we should go for now that we have Cap? We'll address that in a minute because I do want to get through as many of these. Let me write this down before Kelsey gets here. Players to target with Cap. All right, let's keep going.
Thank you, King Sosa. My Timber Shivered says, some of y'all have a tenuous grasp on reality. We don't own any of these people. Lindy and Likely did not want to be here, and that's sad. Several doctors have said Max's long-term is the question, which we've addressed. Linda with a second 50 spot to kickstart this Wednesday.
Woo! Linda says, everyone take a deep breath. Lamar Jackson is our quarterback, and our coaches have been greatly upgraded. Max didn't look right in purple. Stay the course.
Ha! And you mentioned it. We both did off the top. This is the reworked contract restructured nuance that Schefter reported on earlier today. And Eric DeCosta and company, Sarah, as the new league year, not slowly, it's kind of like fast speed ahead, full speed ahead. It's approaching at 4 p.m. Eastern. The Ravens now have a lot more room to work with than they did several hours ago. Dream says 2 questions. Would any other teams have failed his physical and backed out of this trade? Why would the Raiders put him on the trade block 2 months ago after surgery, knowing he wouldn't pass a physical? Based on some of the reporting out there, Sarah, as it relates to Dallas, sure seems like based on their medical reporting that they too would have backed out. And maybe that's why they did reportedly early on in this process for the Maxx Crosby sweepstakes.
And they're reportedly not re-engaging.
Correct.
Even after maybe his price has gone down.
Correct.
Yeah.
Super chats continue to fly in, but let's make sure we're respectful of our guest's time, because I'd imagine she's got a few things on her plate today as well. First of all, one of our longtime patrons probably going to be proud of our guest. She's a repeat guest. She returns to the program. Kelsey Conway, beat reporter for the Cincinnati Bengals. You know, we waved at each other across the convention center room, so we still have yet to actually truly meet in person, face-to-face, but I do count that wave, and we do certainly count her in on today's discussion, given that Trey Hendrickson is remaining in the AFC North and joining the Ravens organization at the start of the new league year in about 3.5 hours from right now. Sister of Devin, Cincinnati Bengals beat reporter and friend of the program, Kelsey Conway, rejoins us. Great to see you. How are you?
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on. We meet again.
And former coworker of mine, Bobby. You forgot to add that in there.
I know. I told Devin, I sent Devin a text and I said, I'm going on your favorite podcast. And he was excited. So he's still listening and being the loyal listener that he is.
Honestly, that doesn't surprise us at all. Wouldn't expect anything less. And thank you, obviously, for your time today, because it's been a unique 24 hours or so for both of these teams that we cover. And why don't we just start there? How did Trey Hendrickson's 2025 season unfold to now him being a year removed from, being the reigning sack getter, and now on his way out of Cincinnati, where he spent his last 5 years, and on to Baltimore?
Well, I guess I should probably start by saying, like, how much time do we have? Because this story has so many layers. And if you were to just ask me about last season, I would then talk about all of the years before, but I'll try to shorten it up here. So this is the Bengals, and obviously you guys have been following the Bengals in the division for years now, but like, this has been a 3-year saga that officially comes to an end. And it's funny that of course it's going to end with another twist that none of us expected. But the way that this unfolded was that Trey Hendrickson approached the Bengals ahead of the 2024 season, wanting to cash in on a really good 2023 season. But prior to the 2023 season, he agreed to a 1-year extension. And so the Bengals looked at it, and the Bengals aren't the type of team that wants to get into business with after every year you try to come back to the table. And so they looked at it as, we gave you a nice little bump last year. We're not renegotiating again. And that didn't sit well with Trey Hendrickson and his camp. Then Trey continued that up with an incredible 2024 season where he led the league in sacks. And then for him and his agent, they felt, and it was a bargain for what the Bengals had for him at that time. And he was 100% committed to making sure his salary mirrored the top pass rushers in the league. And the Bengals don't particularly like to guarantee money in the second year for players other than Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, but specifically for players reaching 30 or above. And so Trey Hendrickson's age was unquestionably a factor in why things didn't get done in Cincinnati. There were also some things going on behind the scenes as far as locker room fit, coaching staff. And I think everything just came to a place where bridges couldn't be repaired last year when he showed up at an OTA after having not been in Cincinnati and held court with us reporters and essentially threw Zach Taylor under the bus, saying he didn't appreciate the fact that the only communication from Zach Taylor to that point had been, you better show up for mandatory minicamp or we're going to fine you. And so he threw Zach Taylor under the bus and said he didn't like that. He was just very frustrated with the Bengals and didn't feel like they were being appreciative of all of the production he's given them. But, there are two sides to every story, where it's the Bengals have said, we've come to the table with you before. And I just feel like it reached a point where the Bengals were never going to be able to make Trey Hendrickson happy in the way that he wanted the multi-year guarantees that the Ravens gave him. And last year they met in the middle right before the season and said, the Bengals finally said, we'll give you a pay bump to make sure you play this year. And he took it. And for everyone that was knowing what was going on behind the scenes, that was the end. There was not going to be a franchise tag. That was the end of it there. And then he played 7 games and then had that core muscle injury and got the surgery and decided to, end his season. And so that's what got us here.
So Kelsey, let's hope that is a saga, by the way. Well done. Thank you for summing it up, because I think we've been looking from the outside in and knowing parts of those pieces of the saga, but thank you for summing it up and putting it into perspective for us. Let's hone in on the injuries, because obviously it's a failed physical
right
that led us to this point with Maxx Crosby going back to the Raiders, and the Ravens will check in on Trey. Do you know where he is at with his injury, and what his timeline is for this upcoming season?
So I'm not up to date as far as that portion of the information, but I will say this about Trey Hendrickson. There were a lot of times he could have not played. He's really tough, and he will play through injuries. And I don't know if that answers your question as far as this specific injury, but I will say, Trey Hendrickson is a very strong-minded individual. And, you can talk about, did he handle things the right way with the Bengals, airing out all this dirty laundry, all that stuff. But the one thing that you can't question about Trey Hendrickson is his toughness and willingness to play. And so I think that I would bet on Trey Hendrickson being able to pass the physical and give the Ravens everything he has in terms of being in good health and really trying to stick it to the Bengals. I think there's a part of that there too. So I don't know specifically as far as timeline, but I do know that the injury that he had, it was serious, but he saw a great specialist and a surgeon. And from what I gathered, there weren't any questions in the conversations about the franchise tag about Trey being able to be ready. And I do feel like the Ravens are going to get the best version of Trey. And so I think that bodes well for any of those people that have questions about Trey's injuries. He never missed games before this last season. So he's not someone who's injury prone, and he will try to play through things when he can.
Kelsey, how would you categorize his limitations against the run? Because he's not Maxx Crosby, but the production from 23 and 24 that you mentioned, which is what I'm sure empowered him to stand on this proverbial table that you've been kind of bringing us down memory lane on, speaks volumes. And that's not something that the Ravens have been able to cash in on for years, really close to a decade since Suggs left.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at it constructively against the run, how would you categorize some of those limitations?
I think all of what you've heard about his limitations in the run are true. And it is the weakness to his game. The one thing I will say, though, is the Bengals have never had a defensive line that's had an interior presence like the Ravens do. So Trey's play against the run might be elevated because of who's playing next to him, but it's not his forte. And it was a big part of, I talked to a number of people inside the Bengals, and his inability to perform at a high level in the run game was a big reason why they weren't interested in an extension, because they viewed him as essentially a one-trick pony. And that's an expensive one-trick pony. And he is a fantastic edge rusher. And that's why I think the fit in Baltimore is going to be really interesting to watch, because they've got a better defensive line than Cincinnati has across the board. But from everything I gathered and having, lived in Baltimore, then worked there, like, it's all about like toughness, how you play against the run, like that type of fit. And to me, Trey Hendrickson didn't really fit that. Crosby did. And when I tried to get the comparison of like where Trey fit last year, talking to people all over the league, Trey was not in the overall Maxx Crosby category as far as full player. So the questions about the run game for him are legit. We'll see how the line that he plays with and what Jesse Minter can do. But he's going to be the pass rush guy there. And I think expectations should be low in the run game.
So how did the Bengals handle that? Did they take him off the field during certain downs? Like, so obviously if you're a run stuffer, you're usually on the field for first and second down, and then you bring in the pass rush specialist on third down. Did they take him off in obvious running situations? Is that how they handled it? Okay.
Yes. So he was primarily their third down guy. And that's why the Bengals were saying, we cannot pay you all this money and have you only be able to do the third down thing. But he's a fantastic closer. So, there were games last year in Baltimore where it came down to the wire, and it certainly felt that way in Cincinnati, where there was a bunch of one-score games, and it just felt like if they could have just had Trey on third down and forced a punt, that they'd win that game. That's what he's going to be able to provide in Baltimore. So, his first and second down action, I would anticipate being limited, but he will make teams pay on third down, and so that's what the Ravens will be investing in with him.
How about Trey the person, Trey the human? You've already kind of mentioned a couple different things about his integrity and the force of which he plays with. But yeah, being that you've been in countless scrums over the last 5 years or so, what are the Ravens getting character-wise?
The Ravens are getting a really high character person in Trey Hendrickson. He's not a big media guy. He's not going to win the press conference, But as far as someone who takes his job really seriously, Trey Hendrickson does. I had a number of conversations with his agent over the last couple of years. He is very serious about his craft. He doesn't drink. He's one of the first people in the weight room in the morning. He takes his job really seriously. And I really do think that because of the amount of criticism he's taken from people as far as chipping away at his game, well, he's not this run player, he's not this. I really do think he's going to be motivated to show people that he is a top 5 edge rusher. And so I really do think the Ravens across the board are going to get a really good player. He does have limitations, and of course, Jesse Minter and co will figure out how to work around that. But he's a high quality character person. He takes his job really seriously, and I think he's someone who's going to try and give the Ravens their best effort as far as winning a Super Bowl, because the Bengals would not have gotten on that run in 2021 and 2022 when they went to the Super Bowl and the AFC Championship game 2 years in a row without Trey Hendrickson. So I think he's the type of person that whoever's around him helps build him up, and I think that's what he's going to be coming into in Baltimore.
I got one last question, but it's kind of a two-parter. You mentioned that Trey's going to want to stick it to the Bengals, of course, because he's been dealing with that saga that you just outlined. What do you think is this like worst case scenario for the Bengals, for him to stay in the division and especially go to the Ravens? How do you think people like Ja'Marr Chase will react? And do you know if that Stitch stream was real or was that AI? Because we were talking about that when the Ravens signed Maxx Crosby, or traded for Maxx Crosby originally. And then there was that stream where he's like, oh, Joe Burrow just texted me and Ravens got Max. There's no way. Do you know if that was real?
I know that sounded exactly like Ja'Marr Chase. Having been in every single one of Ja'Marr Chase's press conference, that sounded exactly like him. And I know he's a huge gamer. So all of those clues lead me to believe that was him. As far as how the Bengals are perceiving this, I actually talked to a Bengals player this morning, and I think the excitement level is more about the fact that they don't have to deal with Maxx Crosby than Trey Hendrickson. So take of that what you want. But I will tell you, I've talked to a number of coaches and players now about Maxx Crosby, glowing recommendations as far as what an absolute monster in pain he is to game plan for. I haven't gotten that same type of response from Bengals players about Trey Hendrickson. But again, I think you're going to see the best out of Trey Hendrickson. And it'll be fascinating because he'll go up against Orlando Brown Jr. twice a year, and those two went at it in training camp all the time. So like the Bengals are going to know what Trey's going to be coming at them with, vice versa. Trey's going to know how to beat Orlando. So it'll be fascinating. But yeah, I would say like the Bengals reaction is more happy probably that Maxx Crosby is not in the division than they are worried about facing Trey twice a year.
Ja'Marr Chase responding accordingly on Twitter today, thinking that it's already the 1st of April with a GIF. Rather humorous, but yeah, that stream was something else. Sarah and I were racking our brains the other day when we played that clip, because in this AI world, who the frick knows? And the live chat's ripping us to shreds because some felt like it was fake, others felt like it was real. We had no clue. We did our homework on it, so we thought. So it's nice to hear your perspective on it. Sarah, you all good with Kelsey?
I'm good. Kelsey, I love you. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me on. This is so much fun. I love when I get to come on with you guys. And of course, now we have more storylines to talk about with the Bengals and Ravens setting up for some interesting matchups this season. We'll see if the Bengals all last year were clamoring about the fact that for a third year in a row, they had to go to Baltimore on a Thursday night. So I'm getting the vibe that the league is probably going to try and do the Ravens a solid, and that matchup will be in Cincinnati. And it kind of seems like it's definitely going to be a Thursday night. So hopefully we get to chat again before that game.
Let's do it. Bengals are due. That's fine. Let's do it. In Cincinnati Thursday night. I'm here for it.
Absolutely. We got your X up on the stream as well. And we threw that link into the live chat. You can be found on Twitter at Kelsey L. Conway. All your writing can be found at the Cincinnati Enquirer. And it's March Madness. You got any sideline gigs coming up over the next few weeks or what?
No, I'm done. So it's now full stream Bengals. But Cincinnati Bearcats have a big game today to decide if they could potentially sneak into the tournament. So I will be watching that.
Love it. Conference championship weekend It's March Madness and Selection Sunday. Best month of the year. Appreciate you, Kelsey. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks so much. Have a good rest of your show, guys.
Appreciate
Appreciate it.
You do the same. Man, I mean, that
was fascinating.
Yeah, it is. Great insight as always. We've had her on the program before. Shout out Devin. Devin is the younger brother of Kelsey, who's been a longtime patron of ours. We appreciate the Conway family. We appreciate Kelsey for her perspective on all things Trey Hendrickson, who now joins the Ravens organization. And Sarah, if Kelsey's on to something, which I'm sure she is, he's going to be plenty motivated to stick it, to use her words, to the organization that he just could simply not feel fully valued, right, over the last couple of years there with all the production, obviously with the exception being this season because of his injury-plagued year. But there's going to be a lot more coming for Trey Hendrickson twice a year when he gets a chance, at least twice a year, to play his now former team.
Well, and it is interesting. First of all, I do want to see the physical past, okay, before we totally know what's going on. Core muscle issue. I mean, we'll see. He was shut down. I think he played 7 games. So his injury happened much earlier. You think he'd be much further along in the recovery process. They'll have a better idea of what his projection could be. I thought it was fascinating where she said that even though Trey's coming here, they're actually relieved that it's not Maxx Crosby. Yeah. And so that just goes to show you, it's like we said at the top of the show, Maxx Crosby is the better all-around player if he's healthy and ready to go. And that's what the Ravens were nervous to mortgage their future on. But can you do Trey Hendrickson and then still have your 2 first-round picks and then all this other money? Bobby, we need to get back to Super Chats, but I do want to put something out here that's very interesting. Rita over at 1057 The Fan tweeted out this morning, and she said, the streets called me. They said the Hendrickson deal was in place before the Crosby trade even happened. Not officially signed, but definitely in place. So I don't know if she's implying that the Ravens were trying to get both.
That's interesting because Stephen Holder, who covers the Colts, had reported as of, I believe, earlier this morning, and I'll pull it up in real time here so that I get it right. He says that according to his sources, Indianapolis made what it hoped was a competitive offer. Colts were in the mix as of yesterday. And after the Crosby trade dissolved, the Ravens offer turned things upside down. The Colts wanted to be closer to that $25 million APY. And as we've already talked about, the Ravens went north of that significantly to 28. So maybe it was the Colts. It was the Ravens, obviously. There were several teams in on it. I know you had a slide coming up. We'll get to that, I'm sure, at some point with just this litany of content.
Evan's saying in the chat that maybe I missed this. Schefter also said this morning they wanted both. Now it's because it's different. Some people are saying that he said that they were interested in both, which is different. Like you can be interested in both and hope you get one of them. But if they wanted to get both, which is kind of what Rita's saying here, then that does also imply with all this extra money they still have, are they done specifically at the edge rusher position?
The plot
thickens. Could you imagine if they had both? That'd be bananas.
The plot thickens, all right. Brian Walters kicks us back off with Super Chats. And Brian writes, been a minute. What a crazy 24 hours. Was hyped for Crosby. He's an animal, but that knee has to be bad, huh? Love y'all. Appreciate you, Brian. Babs has become our newest channel member, just as she did earlier this morning on my channel. So, Babs, thanks for spreading the wealth around. Same thing with Michael Quinn. Welcome to channel membership to you both. Great to have you guys on board with us. Wildlife doesn't like it. He says something just feels not right about all of this. Real estate MD for you.
Is the Ravens waiting so long to restructure Lamar's contract mismanagement? Even if the stadium burns down, I will still be at every home game. Here's what's interesting about Lamar as we pull it up here. And maybe, again, the news has been flying in. We're trying to keep on top of everything. But what I had seen from Spot Rack here, I also have that slide right here from Spot Rack, is, he did talk about how the Ravens open up $70 million of cap space after this restructure. A chunk of it will go to Trey Hendrickson, but up here he says Jackson is still expected to sign a contract extension in the coming weeks. So,
in other
just
words,
putting that out there,
that it won't prohibit them from doing what they ultimately want to get done.
That's what he's saying. I had the question of would it prohibit them? And so I had thought Brian McFarland said that it might. Here we go. Adam Schefter right here. The Baltimore Ravens initially were talking to Trey Hendrickson about playing with Maxx Crosby. And Bobby, so that kind of begs the question, because we just talked about how Trey Hendrickson, his weaker spot in his game is defending the run. So if you're still going to go out and get an edge defender, and you do have Tavius Robinson, who is good at defending the run, but if they were going to have both, they can still go out there and get another edge rusher or an edge defender that can also play the run. If that's what Eric DeCosta is cooking up,
fascinating.
Hold on. We might not be done.
Got to get in the veteran cornerback market. Got to find a safety number 3. More work to be done, of course, along the offensive line, both in free agency and the draft. But
now you have your first-round draft pick back.
I was going to say, especially the draft. I want to underscore that, especially the draft now that 14's back in play. Robbie says, can I take over the vault for a few minutes too? The context here is that I had a power outage happen randomly during my morning show today. And Robbie just so happened to be on a guest call on my show when that power outage happened. And what do you think he did? He took the rock and started shooting.
I love it.
He took the rock and started hooping. Appreciate you, Robbie. That was awesome. A-Rod says, what the media don't understand is the Ravens were trying to have Max and Trey together on the Ravens. Front 4 was going to be Beaks, Trey, Max, and Mike Green with a bunch of emojis. Ray Dog We Trust is celebrating 7 months of channel membership.
We got to find these Etsy witches. Until then, everything the Ravens do got to fail. Somebody break the curse. Well, let's wait to see what happens with Trey and if his physical is passed. If he signs at the dotted line and his physical is passed, maybe the curse is broke. I'll be right back, Bobby. I just need to turn something off right here. It's 2 seconds. Keep going.
Appreciate you, Ray Dog. My Timber Shivered says, y'all are crazy. We hate Dan O, Nick Wrong, Coward, and Florio until now it's optics. Who cares? They're all losers. I don't care about their opinions yesterday, and damn sure not today. Ginger Seamus is celebrating 7 months of channel membership and writes, you two are awesome. Best Ravens coverage around. Thank you both for all your hard work and dedication. Ginger, thanks for being with us, supporting the channel in terms of membership for 7 months. We appreciate that. Dre Dog has been with us all year, meaning this was a year ago this month that we rolled out channel memberships. He's been with us the entire time.
Appreciate you, Dre. He says, with all this craziness, you both have been locked the F in. Please know it doesn't go unnoticed. Love y'all to life. Remember, fairness grants you an opportunity, but fairness does not grant you an outcome.
There he goes on a Wednesday, dropping knowledge. Thanks, Dre, and support. Knowledge and support. Dream says, no more Dream player, but back to Venga at 14. Kuyan says,
the agenda is back. I'm right there with you, Dreams. The agenda for Venga is back.
He says it is so back. And what's also back is skyrocketing viewership. 7,400 plus concurrence on a busy Wednesday as we go well north of numbers that we typically do not touch. Thank you guys for being with us today. If you could please like the video. If you find yourself watching this program right now and you are not subscribed in the YouTube space, we would love for you to be over there, subscribe, become a daily show listener or subscriber. We'd love it, and we appreciate you all year round. And that includes MDaddy006, latest Super Chat donor.
He says, what's up, guys? If EDC gets a stud offensive lineman and Denzel Boston in the draft or a drama-free A.J. Brown, then all will be forgotten by us Ravens fans.
Spartacus Crosby could have been the next J.K. Dobbins. We may have dodged a bullet. Got our picks back and lots of cap space. Let's go. Go get A.J. Brown. Back-to-back super chats about the Philadelphia wide receiver. And Wildlife Wale says, if we're the villains, crime pays. Mr. St. Croix feeling himself down there. He enjoys being the Dark Knight. Be one and only for you.
Says, I'm a medical investigator, and I am paid to make sure when you have surgery that the doctor does what he is supposed to do. Nothing is surface level. Docs don't have the same opinions. LFG. My husband's a doctor too, and that's true. I mean, doctors disagree all the time.
That's
all the time.
Fascinating job to have.
Yeah.
A medical investigator.
Yeah.
Prophet Q is celebrating 3 months of membership. And Prophet writes, I think the Ravens doctors concluded that his knee might need additional surgeries sooner than later and made their choice. Bring on Vanga. Here like Zahir is dropping in a $20 super chat today.
Our defense is in the hands of a genius. Beeks is coming back. Jones is a beast. Mike Green gets a sophomore season where he's not constantly doubled. Adisa Isaac is healthy for now. And now we've got Trey with 2 1s. He says, I'm good.
Thanks, Zahir. Michael Quinn leaves us a super chat today. Wolfie writes in his celebration of 12 months, my wife was ready to purchase a Crosby jersey in Ravens purple. I hope she held off. I don't even think it was available yet. Thanks, Wolfie, and thanks for the membership. Thanks to Michael Quinn as well. My Timber Shivered says, oh no, a bottom-of-the-barrel franchise doesn't want to do business with us? Oh, but Max is pissed? So now he gets to be a Raider for life. Sure seems like that's where the attention's shifting to. Max was in the building, in the Raiders facility, reportedly, at 6 a.m. today. And I'm guessing he was on a red eye last night. So the plot thickens there in terms of what his next move is. LSC 758, Sarah.
Says, my husband said that this is the end of watching the Ravens, and Lamar restructuring is a bad sign. If he doesn't win a Super Bowl, Lamar is gone in free agency. I would prefer an extension, again, according to Spot Rack, that's still expected in a couple weeks. We need to follow that. I need to look more into that.
Wildlife Wale says, what if EDC is sticking it to Vegas for overpaying Lindy? There continues to be this theory, this correlation between the two, and I just don't see it. Thanks, Wildlife. Rafike says the Ravens rep may have dipped in the minds of some, but not as precipitously as it may have appeared. In the end, we're better off now than we were 10 hours ago. Onward. Precipitously. Anybody that was watching the collective last night, I think we know why Rafike decided to use that word. Steve is here with us today. Sarah?
This has been a rough 24 hours for the Ravens front office, from the Max mess to then again not getting Lamar extension done again. EDC's seat warming up. Let's let it play out. Again, I don't know how anybody can have any conclusions based off of the wildness that just happened in the last 24 hours. Like it's nothing is done. We are in the 3rd day of free agency. Let's see how this plays out. I mean, Schefter's talking about they try to get both Hendrickson and Crosby. Is another pass rusher on the way? Is another? I mean, who knows what? Now they got 2 first-round draft picks back. Is another trade? Like, people have brought up A.J. Brown. Could there be one for a center? Like, I don't know. The Ravens are clearly in a mode to go big this year. And while the first domino didn't go the way they wanted to, boy, did they just reloaded quickly. Let's see what happens at least over the next week before. I mean, I don't know if an extension is still coming. I don't think you know either, Steve.
Get Minnesota back on the phone. Talk about Jonathan Grenard more. I mean, to your point, these guys are acutely aware of the sense of urgency right now that seemingly they are entrenched in, given the high stakes, given where they're at right now, and given their activity based on their behavior. There's a behavioral trend that's starting to form, which is what you just picked up on. Dream says Crosby and Hendrickson together would have been the ultimate all-in pairing. Although it failed, we're just glad EDC took a big swing for a change. There you have it. That's a leveled take. Femi's with us today. What's up, Fem?
He says, found out today the Ravens intended to sign Trey and Maxx, replicate Eagles defensive beaks, Travis Green. LJ was already done. Consensus is degenerative knee disease. Oh. Affecting peak long-term powers. Okay, so Femi's dropping a few things. He's confirming what we've read from Schefter and others, that the Ravens were trying to have both Trey and Maxx. Okay. Then he's saying the LJ restructure was already done. They just announced it a few hours before the league year opens. And then he's saying Crosby's consensus from doctors is degenerative knee disease. And you would have had him on the books for 4 more years. Okay.
This is some of the nuance that, Ricky Scoops is that barking dog account that seemingly has a ton of context in the NFL world.
Sometimes gets it right, sometimes doesn't.
Yeah, and got it right last night, but certainly takes his swings and misses, as DaCosta does, and every general manager does, and most insiders have had a couple misses here and there as well. But for what it's worth, Ricky tweeted out, and let me just make sure this is his account and I'm not getting duped. And I would have been duped if I read it, so we're going to continue on. It's not his account. Never mind. Yeah, it was something related to cartilage in knee, so post surgery cartilage, but it's a fake account. Great insight, Fem. Appreciate you. My Timber Shivered says the fan base is so extreme. And look, this is what was DaCosta privy to what most GMs were and their medical teams around the league, given where Crosby was at that point in his recovery timetable going into the physical? Yes, but until you get the physical done, have him in your building, have your medical team thoroughly inspecting him. Are you truly aware of his overall health situation? Are you truly privy to some of the nuance here? And if there is a projection for degenerative knee disease and something that will affect him long-term, knowing what the draft compensation attached that you've agreed to is, then you're darn right they have a right to pull out. And that's what they did last night. My Timber Shivered says the fan base is so extreme. Is Lamar perfect? No. Is his alleged contract approach frustrating? A little. Is he at worst top 3? Yep. Great human? Yep. Amazing ambassador? Yep. Ultimate competitor? Yep. From My Timber Shivered as he thoroughly evaluates Lamar Jackson. Dreams is here.
He says that was the greatest 72 hours as a Ravens fan. LOL. I mean, seriously, dating back to Friday, this has been an crazy, entertaining, get your popcorn ready 72 hours.
White Broccoli says, my heart aches. Now people aren't going to want to trade with us. We already lost so many pieces too. We are going to need some trades. That was already debunked, White. That was already debunked. White Broccoli says, it's all good, Flock Nation. I'm going to call. This is back-to-back. It's all good here for you. This one's back-to-back.
Yeah, he says, all good, Flock Nation. I'm going to call EDC and sign with the Ravens for $1 million guaranteed, and I'll play whatever position they need, including edge rusher. I'm telling you, again, there's going to be jokes. Other GMs will call up Eric. You gonna do it? And there'll be jokes and jabs. But if the Ravens offer to trade something and it's a better deal than somebody else, and it's still pending a physical, as it is for every single trade and signing is pending a physical, every single one. But if the Ravens offer more than the next team, they'll give the Ravens the trade. It's just there's going to be some eyebrow raises for sure. But then Eric's going to talk to him, and Eric's going to be like, "Look, let me tell you what happened." And maybe some of this knee degenerative stuff will come in. Talk, and then he'll have. He's like, "How would this have helped me? How would this have helped us? We wanted both guys. We were trying to get both guys." Like it really, I'm sorry. I just don't buy that the Ravens can't trade anymore. I'm just not buying it.
Agreed. King says, so we got the older player, the worst player on the same contract, all while ruining our rep as an organization. Thanks, EDC, with a clown emoji. Oh, plus no Lamar extension. King, this came in This came in over 20 minutes ago, so hopefully you've been listening the last couple minutes.
Yep.
Dinero Tranquilo for you.
Says, really enjoy how you guys bring people in that have been in the trenches with these other teams. They give real insight. Kelsey was great.
She's awesome. Brian says, please have Kelsey Trossett on more often. Kelsey is happily in a relationship per her IG, and I'm happy for her. She's great. JL Green said, thank you for looking out for me, Brian. But just because an attractive young female is on the show doesn't necessarily mean there's a love interest involved for me. And it puts me in a weird position. But thank you for looking out for me. JL Green says, woo, glad I did in pre-order a Maxx Crosby jersey. Hopefully they would reimburse you if you did.
Yeah, exactly.
And Sarah, my timber shivers here.
He says, Trey Hendrickson is so much worse. In the last 3 years, he has 7 more sacks than Max. He comes it's more than stats, bro. Oh, here comes it's more than stats, bro. He's also got 4 more forced fumbles. But hey, don't let facts get in the way.
Board certified DJ Shefty also reports we were going to sign both. A lot of people have been commenting on this just since he went on ESPN a short while ago, which Sarah mentioned minutes ago. Joe Jenkins says, in addition, Ruben Bain or David Bailey with pick number 14. So more candidates start to fly in here, Sarah, with the 14th overall pick now back on the table for them coming up next month. And you and I thought maybe we'd have a very unique opening night of the draft with maybe no coverage or an hour or two of coverage. Yeah. Nice while that lasted. Back to marathon coverage we go. We don't make any decisions now, though. It's a team. We're a team. We'll figure out what's best that night. You have a lot going on, and I got to leave the next morning, round 2 and 3, a.k.a. Friday. I will be in Baltimore as the best man for my college roommate's wedding. So we'll figure all that out coming up next month.
There will be coverage.
Jimmy for you.
Says Cam Jordan is 4th among all edge rushers last year. Cam, Trey, Travis, and Beeks, when he returns, crazy front 4 that can get to the QB and create pressure.
Sarah, you referenced that Brian McFarland talked about recently as I kind of get back to the Lamar front here, and we'll continue on with these super chats, that it might be difficult after the restructure, which we didn't know was a thing until today. Well, Brian was just asked about it, and he was asked by a guy named Scott Phillips to explain it like he's 5 years old. Let's all become 5 for the moment.
Let's do that.
Brian says this in response to that. Basically, his cap number went down with the restructure, but will go up if an extension is reached because of a new signing bonus for the extension.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll have to set aside some of the savings from the restructure to accommodate the increase from an extension.
Okay, so an extension is in play. But so if Spot Rack is saying that the Ravens have opened up $70 million with this restructure, he's just saying, however they sign him, just know it'll go up back up a little bit.
Yep.
So I don't know. Does the savings go from 70 million to 60, 55, 50? Still plenty enough to do business. But so an extension is still in play.
Brian is fantastic. Go check him out at russellstreetreport.com or his Twitter account, which is what I just brought that in from as of minutes ago, at Ravens Salary Cap is where he can be found. Thanks to Jimmy for the super chat. And I lost my spot for the moment. We pick things up with Evan, who writes, the fact that we potentially could have had both Max and Trey is why I answered no in the poll. Let's go get Chubb or something, I guess.
That's fair. I mean, 24 hours ago, we only knew about Max. So when we asked the question about getting 2 first-round picks and then going from Max to Trey, correct. Now he's saying if we could have had both, obviously we're not better off, and that's true. But then if they do go get Chubb or somebody else, then we will come back and revisit this question again then.
Certainly. Kobe writes, use 27 first for AJ. 27. Use 27 first for AJ. Oh, you're expecting them to be 27th overall in... Oh, wait. Oh, I'm sorry. The 2027 first rounder, which we don't know where they're going to select yet, obviously. He's proposing that they send next year's first for AJ, sign Bradley Chubb, and draft Vanga.
That's too much for me for AJ.
That's a lot.
Not when all these other receivers are going for a second rounder.
Drost. Yeah. None of those other receivers, though, are general managed by Howie Roseman. But Eric's not been one to quiver to his buddy Howie Roseman, so we'll see how this plays out. By the way, Reek Woolen, who you and I discussed yesterday, is going to Philadelphia. It's a deal that's up to $15 million. He's one of the veteran cornerbacks. He just won a Super Bowl with Mike Mack in Seattle. He's been there since 22, where he was drafted. He's going to Philadelphia on a 1-year deal up to $15 million.
Go get Cheeto. Re-sign Cheeto.
Honestly,
Sarah,
I talked about that at length last night. I think they absolutely should, and there's no rush to do it. But you want to be careful because he was valuable, and he put good tape on film for you last year, and there wasn't a ton on the books for him because he played in conference for a different team, while the other team where he was formerly a part of, Tennessee, paid $7.5 million for him to suit up in black and purple.
I hear that. He'll be more expensive for the Ravens this year. He also, it's day 3 of free agency. So, the contracts aren't, the longer this plays out, the less money he gets.
Yeah. Drost says,
not that I'm rooting against him from getting money, but you get my point when it comes to like the Ravens cap situation.
I do.
Yeah.
Drost says, imagine if Crosby has to medically retire in 2 years. Man, you knock on wood, that's hopefully not the case, but you just never know. Spartacuz has become a channel member. Welcome to official VAULTRON status. Sparta, it's great to have you here. Primetime says, I said this when the trade happened. EDC panicked giving 2 firsts. Ravens EDC look like, Primetime, not even finish your thing, but Eric can never win with some of you guys, man. He took a huge swing, not knowing the medical, or at least having a sense for the medical, knowing that we need to get him in-house before we ultimately push this thing across the finish line. And now you're ripping him for taking a big swing that everybody was celebrating league-wide. It's tough, man. I just don't think that's a fair way to react to this.
1 minute he's cheap. The next minute he's panicking. The next minute he's giving up too much. It's just like, this is why there's comments like the fans at the end of the bar. Not because fans don't have some good points, but because there's so many wild differentiating opinions. Like, again, there's still people here calling him cheap. Then there's him saying he panicked by taking a big swing. And it's like, that's why these guys are forced to filter out all, noise,
The second part of the chat says Ravens EDC looks like they didn't have offseason plan, totally out of character. Look, it's just, that's a premature.
They do have a plan.
That's a premature reaction, and their activities are telling you otherwise, Primetime, and we hope you see that. Douglas H. Brown Sr. for you.
What an awesome day. What you two are steering. Wow. Glad I'm here. We're glad you're here too, Douglas H. Brown. Glad you could find some time in your super busy life right now. I get it.
And thanks for giving us a brief moment to reflect. I mean, you're not kidding. We're coming up on 8,000 concurrents. So goes without saying. I mean, you guys have just come in droves. And by the way, we are approaching 30,000 subscriptions. It'd be pretty cool to hit that number at some point in the near future. So if you find yourself watching right now and you're one of the 7,897 and counting concurrent viewers, we would love for you to subscribe if you don't already. We are currently, Sarah, 94 subscriptions out from 30,000. Can we hit that milestone before today is over? That would be a wonderful milestone, knowing that you and I have been doing this for right around 4 years, going into our 5th season coming up in 26. So thank you, Douglas, for allowing us to pause for a moment. Pete says, at least we know the Ravens pullout game is strong. Daryl said, nephew. Daryl says Bosa is a free agent and could help.
I'm not feeling that one.
For you.
Kobe says, when I heard stress on the bone, I immediately thought Maxx may have the onset of arthritis. Bone on bone in knee will quickly sap you of burst. We got some more on doctors and medical evaluations.
By the way, Daryl's referring to Joey, I believe, who spent last year in Buffalo. Is that Daryl, which Bosa that you're referring to? Thank you. Kobe, thank you. Dev says, so the Ravens was worried that Maxx would only be a 1 or 2 year deal for 2 firsts. First time catching a live. I think we've covered that pretty extensively. Great to have you here with us, Debbie. Brian Walter is with us, Sarah.
I do it. People trust my decisions based on, he says I do IT. People trust my decisions based off technical issues. 99.9% of us dummies in here don't do football. How about we trust that those who do football on a daily know what they're doing. Faith.
No, I'm not laughing at you, Brian. I'm laughing at the live chat. Corona guy says, Sarah, make sure you listen to Bobby when he reads tweets. Uh-oh, what's going on here? Oh, I know what he's talking about. Sarah, make sure you listen to Bobby when he reads tweets so you don't interrupt him and read the exact same one. Shout out Cole. So last night.
Okay, so I haven't done this. This was Cole.
That I don't know. Corona's going to have to speak for that. I can't speak for him on that.
Okay.
You know that I'll mention it to you and we'll mention it to each other off the air when we course correct and give constructive feedback, because that's what we do in a partnership and how we make it go.
Yeah.
Cole, in a delirious moment last night, I read a tweet in our final moments. We had been live for 2.5 hours. It had been a balls to the wall experience. He's not used to, bless his heart, radio style type of live streaming. He does pre-recorded stuff and he does it really well.
Yeah.
Road graders, film analysis type of style. As you and I both know, he does it really well. I read a tweet. He got caught in a late night moment, and I'm not kidding you. Milliseconds later, read the exact same tweet. And I let him finish it. I let him finish the tweet, and I just started dying. I started laughing. And everybody was losing their minds in late night delirious mode. It was so funny.
Okay, well, he also said it was Cole, not me. So I'm glad I've never done that. We have both missed what the other person has said before, for sure. But I don't think I've ever read an entire tweet that you already read.
You know what? It happens all the time. And
because we're multitasking.
I'm sure people pick up on it. This is a multitask. You're right, Sarah. Roller coaster. We love it. And it happens. You just try to minimize the amount of times that it happens.
Yeah.
My timber shivered for you.
Says when players leave for money, it's a business. When the team looks out for them, it's a bad look. That's true. It's got to go both ways. Players always say they want to be in a place long-term and then leave. It's a business for everyone. And the Ravens have been on the other end of this. They basically agreed to a deal with Zardarius Smith. And Zardarius Smith said, "No, never mind." I mean, it happens on both.
Grant in 2018.
That was a medical. That was the Ravens side again, right?
That was both that and Brockers
were
failed physicals. Brockers was 2020. Grant was 2018. That was prior to that was right when I was coming on. So I don't really remember the Grant side. I'd certainly remember the Brockers nugget for sure from 20. Thanks, Timber.
By the way, that Grant, the Ryan Grant.
Yeah.
It was in 2017. They originally sent him to a 4-year deal until he failed the physical. And okay. So after 2017, he played in 14 games the next year, which is good. Then in 2 games in 2019, and then he was done. And the Ravens were going to sign him for a 4-year deal before he failed the physical. So the Ravens made the right call on that one. And who knows if they made the right call with Maxx? Time will tell.
Meanwhile, Devin Conway's here, and he writes, everywhere else I get, oh, you're Kelsey Conway's brother, but this is the only place where it's Kelsey Conway, Devin's sister, and I love it. Proud to be a VAULTRON and even prouder brother. That's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
That is very cool. Clearly, there is a loving sibling dynamic, one that you and I can certainly relate to and appreciate. So, Devin, thanks for all the support, man. And Kelsey crushed it today with great insight on the newest Raven in Trey Hendrickson. Tony Williams for you.
Says, I really believe if the Raiders would have accepted a change in compensation like a first and a second/third, trade would have gone through. But 2 1s, no way.
Thanks, Tony. Spartacus says, so are we calling them the New York Ravens now? You know, we have touched on it a little bit, Sarah. Multiple staff members, of course, ended up heading to New York, as we've known for several weeks now. And now there's players that are heading to New York as well. Pat Ricard becoming the latest at the fullback position, ending a phenomenal tenure in Baltimore as an undrafted rookie back in 2017 out of Maine. And Jordan Stout, of course, we knew this at the kicker position. Isaiah Likely, and Ardarius Washington. These are the four. They probably won't be the final four, but they're the first four, and they all head to New York to continue their NFL careers. And I think you really have to appreciate two of the four being undrafted rookies, and they're meaning former undrafted rookies in Ricard and Washington. So congratulations to them. All four heading to the NFC.
Congratulations to them for sure. They've all been, a lot of them are super likable guys. And at this same time, just like I said, you and I are replaceable. Very few people are not replaceable. The Ravens can replace all of those. They can replenish in those positions. It's more Linderbaum that's going to be tough.
Don Hudson
says, flip through Raiders Twitter. Haven't seen anyone excited to have Maxx back. They should be hyped to have Maxx back if his knee was going to be just fine. Tells me even their fan base believe the Ravens docs.
Thanks, Dawn. White Broccoli has become a channel member. Official VAULTRON status for White Broccoli. Appreciate you very much. Lurch from the 410 says, Raiders fans acting like they didn't back out of the Roger Saffold trade in 14. Insert meme of Ray Charles. What's up, Dron, for you?
There's 6 months until ball is snapped. We cannot be this fair weathered based off of 72 hours. LOL. The only questionable move for me was losing Kohler. Oh, interesting that you picked that one out.
Maybe the best blocking tight end in the league.
Yeah.
A role player by definition, but gosh, role players win championships. Yep. Help you win championships. Femi is calling for Njoku, Mitchell, and Tony Jefferson all in play. He's either calling for that or he's hearing rumblings, and he has been known to work the phones. Thanks, Fem.
Which one is it, Fem? Are you calling for it or are you hearing about it?
Yep. Justin Hayes says, most are forgetting that our new head coach, OC, and have a specific vision for this roster, plan in place, and might be on schedule still. Yeah, look, and, Sarah, the devaluing, if you will, or it's a strong word, but, not it's not much of a surprise that they're allowing Pat Ricard to walk in free agency. There's a new offense. It's going to be heavy 12 personnel, heavy usage of tight ends. And not every team values the fullback position. Doesn't mean the Ravens won't have one on their roster. Doesn't mean they won't have one on their practice squad. But Pat Ricard is no longer in their plans under this new regime, and he heads to New York as a result. Adam, for you.
Says fans need to understand Minter is a defensive-minded head coach, so you can't put all the decision-making on EDC. I think EDC has quite a bit of pull, though, obviously. But yeah, he's going to listen to Minter. Minter has a voice. The ultimate decision is EDC. I would think John Harbaugh had a bigger voice just because he was here for 18 years.
Thanks, Adam. Jaquarius writes, I think EDC is not done. Yeah, it sucks. Maxx didn't work out. But Trey, I think, is a good pickup. And we still got our picks, so let's see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Jaquarius. VWC Dog says, glad to hear about the kids making All-Stars. Not sure what that reference is. He also became a new channel member,
Nice.
VWC Dog. So welcome to VAULTRON status. And Joe Jenkins is back with us, Sarah.
John Elway, left knee was bone on bone, chronic knee disease, and was forced to retire in 1999. Very sad for him. Don't want Crosby to suffer with that either.
It's Maurice says letting Pat Ricard walk is just diabolical. And Frank Brady celebrating 6 months of channel membership. And he writes, with all the ex-Ravens, now Giants, it shows Harbaugh's problem was his loyalty to poor coaches. It wasn't a stale message with the players. I did hear that Isaiah Likely was interested in going to the Commanders and may have settled. When I say settled, may have landed with the Giants. But I read that his first selection or preference was Washington. Rafike is here with us.
The idea that we were considering both Crosby and Hendrickson is interesting. Definitely another edge setter in the works.
Kobe Pruitt says, in Declan's offense, we could probably talk more about drafting Kenyon Sadiq because of the focus on tight ends in Ben Johnson's scheme. Oh my. The Oregon tight end went nuts in Indy last month.
Did.
And if he's there at 14, which I don't know, will a tight end go top 10? If he's there at 14 and Vanga's there, Sarah, you got yourself a conundrum. A good conundrum, but a conundrum.
No, I'm still going with Venga. I mean, I get it. Sadiq was off the charts. He was fire.
Wait a second.
It's hard to move me off of Venga.
And I hear you on that.
Yeah.
But they did just sign Simpson. They like Emery for all intents and purposes. You've got Voorhees for depth. You've got 10 other picks outside of your 14th. I don't know where I'm at yet because this just came up and I got to think about it.
Yeah.
But Kenyon is intriguing if he's there at 14 based on what he did in Indy.
I just want to protect Lamar.
I know.
Not just this year, but for years to come.
I know.
And here's the other thing. I mean, whatever. It'll play out the way it plays out. But they're also really good at drafting tight ends. And many of the good tight ends have come in the 4th round.
They've had a lot of success
on day 3. Yeah,
they've had a lot of success day 3, and that could very well continue. Thanks to Kobe, and thanks to all of you for being with us as we hit the 8,000 number. North of it, Sarah, 8,000 concurrents on a busy Wednesday. Let's get a live update on where we are as we approach 30,000. We're at 29,000. You know what's funny?
What?
Chalk this up to the sleep-deprived nature, the sleep-deprived state that I'm in. Remember when I said we were 94 subscriptions away from 30,000?
Do you mean like 1,094?
We are 922 subscriptions away from 30,000. But thank you for being here. And if you find yourself watching and you aren't yet subscribed,
maybe we can get 922 subscriptions today. There's 8,000 concurrents. Get over there, you guys. Only 922 of you need to go and subscribe.
I'm going to hand up on that one.
And make Bobby feel better about his kerfuffle there.
Hand up.
Fumble.
That's what we do. Hand up, take a lap, big guy. White Broccoli says, this channel has been a great breath of fresh air with all this deployment stuff going on. Just want to thank you all for being great. And I'm glad I found this channel. Feelings mutual.
Yeah. It's a lot.
Feelings absolutely mutual.
It's a lot. Yep. Deployment. That's a lot. That's heavy.
Yeah, it is. It is. And if you're, depending on your news algorithm too, on social media, it's probably all you're seeing and consuming. So hopefully this is a reprieve from reality for the moment.
You see his profile pic in his uniform there?
I did not actually. Thank you for
check it out. Check it out.
I did not. Let's see.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah. Is that what do you have in your left hand there, Broccoli?
Yeah, what is that?
It looks like some sort of scanner. But yeah, let us know, Broccoli. We'd love to learn about your story, man, and thank you for that. Okay, so over 8,000 concurrents and counting. We're just getting started here in some ways. Please like the video if you could on your way in. Subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Consider becoming a channel member or gift-giving membership. Sarah, what went wrong with the Maxx Crosby trade? And why did Eric DeCosta and this Ravens front office pull out of this deal that was in place and would have gone official today at 4:00 Eastern as the new league year approaches? Adam Schefter talked a little bit last night on ESPN about the medical nuance, some of the intricacies between what the Ravens found in their evaluations and other medical teams throughout the NFL, like the Cowboys, who really kind of start to make this a lot more interesting in what may have led to the final straw decision. And it certainly, I'm sure, was a gut-wrenching decision that was ultimately made by the Ravens front office.
Because the Baltimore Ravens essentially failed him on their physical. And my understanding is there were multiple doctors that reviewed his MRI scans. There were doctors that examined him, including Dr. Daniel Cooper, the Dallas Cowboys doctor that performed surgery on Patrick Mahomes and Malik Neighbors. Many teams and players rely on Dr. Cooper's expertise. And Dr. Cooper was one of the doctors that reviewed the images where the Ravens then felt compelled to back out of this trade. So there are a whole host of ramifications. Moments ago, Maxx Crosby's agent, CJ LeBoy, issued a statement that Maxx Crosby is doing great. He'll be back better than ever, and he'll be the game wrecker. But meanwhile, The Raiders have Maxx Crosby back in their possession. The Ravens need to move on. And Maxx Crosby now needs to figure out where he's going to be playing in 2026 as he continues to recover from what was said to be a significant knee injury.
So again, that was last night, courtesy of ESPN, Sarah. We know, as we discussed earlier on in the live stream, and as you brought up, that Schefter is now reporting that they could very well have been in on both players, meaning Crosby and Hendrickson. And we also know that according to multiple reporters, including Albert Breer, Crosby showed up to the Raiders facility this morning at 6 a.m. to continue his rehab. So whether or not that reinvigorates and rejuvenates and kind of brings him back fully engaged, given all the money that they've spent to the start of free agency, remains to be seen with his future. We know there isn't going to be a future in Baltimore for him. And what Schefter noted here may give you an idea as to why the Ravens pulled out. Dr. Daniel Cooper, is the Dallas Cowboys team medical doctor. He's provided surgery and performed surgery on Mahomes and neighbors. He is respected around the league, and he was involved here. And so, as you see here from Schefter, the quote that you just heard there is that his understanding is there were multiple doctors that reviewed Crosby's MRI scans. There were doctors that examined him, including Dr. Daniel Cooper, including the Ravens medical staff. Dr. Cooper was one of the doctors that reviewed the images where the Ravens then felt compelled to back out of this trade that they had initially agreed to pending a physical. And so as I kind of summarized here late last night, you got to wonder if this helps connect the dots on the reports that were out there that Dallas was no longer interested as of last week in being involved in the Crosby sweepstakes. They decided to pivot and trade for Rashawn Gary, and maybe, just maybe, this kind of helps you put the puzzle together.
Well, that's the thing is, like, the conspiracy theorists that are saying the Ravens got cold feet. Okay, they have a couple things to contend with. This one right here, first and foremost. If it's not just the Ravens doctors who didn't like what they saw when they examined his knee, if it's not just the Ravens doctors, and there's the Cowboys who were initially interested and then kind of got a little bit cold, and now they're not re-engaging. So you have to contend with other team doctors seeing his knee in a similar way. The other thing some conspiracy theorists are going to have to contend with are those that say, well, the Ravens saw that Trey Hendrickson's market wasn't shooting up the way they thought it might have. And so once they saw they could get him at a pretty decent price, they said, well, forget Crosby, I'm going to go for Hendrickson. But now you have to contend with the fact that he was always a free agent and the Ravens were trying to get both. Not one, both.
At these numbers.
At these numbers. And you have to contend with the fact that according to Aditi, whose last name I'm not going to attempt. Sorry, Aditi, we love you.
Akinkawala.
You are the best. She said that the Ravens already had that restructure ready to go. And so you did everything you needed to do to get the money available. You already had Trey Hendrickson as a free agent. You knew that was happening. You were trying to get both. And the Cowboys team doctor saw it the same way. There's too many facts that fly in the face of the cold feet narrative. At the end of the day, sometimes the simplest explanation is the real explanation. And it's that two teams had a deal pending a physical. That is everyday business in the NFL. And there is nothing, and I repeat, nothing dirty when two sides say, hey, we agree on this deal if XYZ happens. And in this case, it's a past physical, especially when you mortgage 2 first-round picks. So when you both agree that that's the caveat, that's the risk both sides are taking. And for the Raiders, I get it. It stinks. They lose 2 first-round picks. They committed $200 million to other players thinking this was going to go down. But it also stunk for the Ravens because they wanted both pass rushers. Now they don't have both. They, for now, have one pending a physical. And maybe they'll go out and get another one. But they lost out on some pass rushers thinking that they had Crosby. So there's a lot of facts to contend with, and it just flies in the face of those conspiracy theories.
Well said. More on the Dallas component of this that really, to your point, has to be contended with by the conspiracy theorists that are out there. Jane Slater covers the NFL for NFL Network, and primarily she handles Dallas Cowboys related coverage. Well, she joined NFL Network earlier, and this is a clip that just surfaced. And Sarah, what I'm going to do is when I play it, just for copyright purposes, I'm going to take you off the screen as we always do to make sure that we're in good shape here, and then we'll both react to it accordingly on the other side. Here is Jane Slater talking about the Dallas component and how it helps us, in part, put the puzzle pieces together.
You know, I discussed this on Sunday night and throughout the week. You know, the Cowboys said that they were interested in Maxx Crosby and they had talked about a number of things, but they weren't willing to part with their ones. So when this information was revealed about the physical and Maxx Crosby being back on the market, my initial question was, okay, the Cowboys must want to get back in here, right? They still need edge help. But I was told from a high-ranking source, no, we're good with what we've done with Rashawn Gary so far. Now, that information, of course, is not that satisfying to a Cowboys fan base that loved the idea of Maxx Crosby coming to the DFW area. But here's what I would say. Adam Schefter put this out yesterday, and I've been working to independently verify to what extent. Dr. Daniel Cooper is the Cowboys team doctor. He is a knee specialist. He has taken on several cases of more complicated knees. I mean, Jalen Smith in recent years comes to mind. As Adam Schefter described it, he consulted with the Ravens on those physicals and the MRIs, and that ultimately led to the Ravens stepping away. Now, I've tried to clarify, was he also involved early on? Typically how this thing works, Yam, is once a trade is agreed upon, then the trainers then have permission to exchange the slides and the MRIs. So the sense then is that Dr. Cooper wouldn't have done it then. He would have had to have done it independently for the Ravens. Now, it doesn't seem likely that Dr. Cooper could necessarily share that information with the Cowboys. But the fact that Dr. Cooper consulted and the Ravens walked away, you find yourself wondering if that is what gave the Cowboys some pause here. And I would also argue, I was on the radio this morning talking to the guys at 105.3 The Fan, if they did a physical here in Dallas, gave up 2 once, and they were concerned about where he was in his recovery, would the fan base have been okay with that? I think the issue right now is, as one GM described it to me, he was never going to quote unquote pass his physical. They knew where his recovery was going to be and it was going to take some time. But if there is some concern because it's so early about what that meniscus looks like, and as even Schefter alluded to in talking to the doctor who actually did the surgery about the stress on the cartilage and the stress on that bone, maybe the Cowboys are in a wait and see approach. Hey, we like Maxx Crosby, but maybe we need to see him further in his recovery before we make a play here again. And then I think maybe a couple of other teams will do that. And as Las Vegas has come out and said, they're not coming down from the value. So maybe they're comfortable with what they've got, especially with the 2 linebackers right now. And if there are no takers, I could see the Cowboys potentially getting back in the market. But that Dr. Cooper piece is very interesting to me, Mike.
Interesting indeed. We'll bring partner back in here. So just more context there to what matches up with Schefter's reporting and what Jane has been on for the last several hours leading into last night when all of this first took place. Sarah, your reaction to that?
It's the same. It's the same as that I had before, that it's medical doctors are all going to have their opinions. And like she said, and like many people have pointed out, everybody knew he wasn't going to pass the physical short term. And it sounds like the Ravens would be fine with that. If we're getting 4 years out of Maxx Crosby and we need to like ramp him up in the beginning of the first year of this deal, that's fine. Because what we need is a closer later on. We need him in the playoffs. We need him in December. We need him in January. And so, yes, everybody knew that he wasn't going to pass it short term. The question is what do these medical professionals see long term down the road? And so what it's sounding like is that it seemed long term, it looks like, as Femi pointed out, what did he call it? Like the disease in the knee.
Degenerative disease.
Degenerative disease. And there was some bone on bone issues and things like that. And so again, with the Cowboys doctor seeing the same thing, it doesn't make it a Ravens only concern. And I also want to bring up here, Bobby, because Adam Schefter also tweeted this morning, which had statement from Maxx Crosby's surgeon, Dr. Neil Atrache. I'm going to call him Dr. Neil from here on out in case
Dr. Elatrosh.
Elatrosh. Okay, I'm going to call him Dr. Neil Elatrosh. Maybe I can do that. Okay, Dr. Neil Elatrosh. So this was his quote to ESPN this morning. He said, Maxx Crosby is doing very well in the early part of his rehab and recovery from surgery to treat a significant meniscus tear and the related stress injury to the bone and cartilage in his knee. He is certainly on track in his planned program. He feels very well and is already much improved compared to before surgery. Then he says this, we truly respect the work of the Ravens staff with Maxx regarding the contract physical exam. We also understand the challenge the staff faces when tasked to provide a future risk assessment based on an evaluation early in the recovery process. So his own surgeon is saying, hey, yeah, he's doing well. There was significant meniscus tear that's also related to his bone and cartilage. And yes, he's much improved, but he's saying, I respect that we're this early in the process and they have to provide a future risk assessment. His own surgeon saying that. Then he's saying this is especially challenging when dealing with an elite player like Maxx, considering the level of commitment necessary for a team to obtain him. The timing of this assessment is unfortunate because the apparent risk will lessen as his recovery progresses and his return to performance over the next few months becomes more clear. At this point, Maxx is doing an excellent job attacking his rehab and his knee is responding very well. We look forward to Maxx returning to his elite level of performance this season as planned and for several years more to come. So maybe, if anybody's going to revisit a Maxx Crosby trade, and no, it won't be the Ravens after this. I'm telling you, the Raiders are not going to be like, yeah, let's try, let's take two on this. The Raiders aren't going to do that. But maybe closer to draft time, to a surgeon's point, that it's like it's so early in the recovery, it's hard to have a risk assessment for his future. He's saying it would become more clear as he progresses. So if he does progress, as his surgeon thinks he might, then maybe the Raiders can revisit it closer to training camp or another time if they're interested. But I thought that was well said by his own surgeon.
Yeah, and it also matches up well with last month's story that was written by Ian Rappaport of NFL Network, who had this to say. This is specifically from his NFL Network piece, and Mike Garafolo revisited it last night. Again, Super Bowl weekend, Ian wrote that while Crosby is ahead of schedule and the repair was considered to be a best case scenario situation, it likely means he won't be medically cleared before free agency officially begins today at the start of the new league year. Teams can trust their medical experts and project a player's health, so a trade is at least possible, which it almost happened. But rarely are players not yet finished with rehab included in blockbuster trades, to your point there, Sarah, and to his doctor's point. This likely means that if Crosby is traded, it may be much later, perhaps at, what you also just said, the NFL draft or prior to the season. And Mike was like, hey, these are key paragraphs from Ian's piece. Medical clearance was not expected by now. It's all a projection on his recovery. The Ravens weren't comfortable making that projection yesterday. The Raiders obviously disagree. And Sarah, speaking of disagreement, if you go back to December 26th of 2025, then Raiders head coach Pete Carroll, prior to his dismissal, had this to say at a press conference after he shut down Maxx Crosby for the final 2 regular season games with this meniscus setback that he had literally been playing through. Bless his heart, bless his character, bless his resilience. Some team, whoever he plays for, is going to get all that and more coming up. But had this to say after he made that organizational decision and Max stormed out of the building because of his inner competitive spirit.
That you guys had sat down Maxx Crosby and told him that he was going to be sat down for the rest of the year and that he left the building. Is any of that accurate?
Yeah, we talked before when he was getting out of here that he's been fighting it so hard for so long. He's been fighting this thing for 9 weeks, whenever Kansas City was. And each week he has done everything you could possibly imagine a guy could do to play. And he's been able to, and they've worked with him to get through it. But after an evaluation we did Monday or Tuesday, whenever it was, it just looks too bad. And so, and he didn't want to take the news like that, and I didn't want to take the news like that. And so we just worked our way through to get to this point where, he's been practicing on Fridays, and he wasn't, he'd have gone if we let him. He'd have been out there, and he would not have hesitated. But he knows that he's banged up. So, he's talking about, I'd like to get out of here, and I said, yeah, get out of here. So he took off.
And then Pete Carroll had to take off because they fired him, and the Vegas Raiders were yet again, Sarah, irrelevant to the postseason picture. But again, that was from a press conference, December 26th of 2025, after they decided to shut him down. And here we are, several months later, multiple months removed from his January 7th meniscus repair procedure. And he may be ahead of schedule, but ultimately he's not on the Ravens schedule. And that is where we find ourselves on March 11th as the new league year approaches, hours from right now.
So I think we've laid out pretty well that the Ravens not only were within their rights, and again, the Raiders, and I get why they're ticked, and at the same time, like, they know the risk of these trades pending the physical, and they know that he's early in his recovery process. So, Ravens fans will accuse the Raiders of trying to sell, pretend that he was better than he was, and try to sell the Ravens a product that wasn't as maybe good as they had told them. That's what Ravens fans will accuse them of. And of course, Raiders fans or others will call the Ravens dirty. And so, but we've laid out pretty well, I think, a pretty compelling case that they really did want to trade for him. And it was that examination that was real. Now, this was last night before all this information came to light. But last night, Tom Pelissero tweeted that one GM summarized the feelings around the league, which is this is very much BS on Baltimore's part. That Greg Rosenthal last night he's been around the block a few times. He says also very much BS, having strong opinions with a fraction of the information that Baltimore has, and more of that information. We probably still only have a few fractions of it, right? And so like Cameron Wolf of the NFL says, one NFL general manager told me everybody involved in Maxx Crosby trade talks knew he would be out until June, July, coming off meniscus. And I think the Ravens knew that. I don't think the Ravens had a problem with that. It was more what they found for him long-term. So then Cameron goes on and says, consensus opinion I've got from NFL decision makers, Ravens got cold feet and it could impact how other teams work with Baltimore going forward. Marcus Mostert says, I think it would be wild to give up much for Maxx Crosby now. Baltimore just lost a bunch of free agents. They had no incentive to go back out. When they did back out, they had already lost. What was it, up to 9 at the time? 8 players? What incentive did they have when they had all this money? They already had Trey Hendrickson's deal going on to go with Maxx Crosby. So what was their incentive other than they thought they were mortgaging too much of their future on an injured player? Andrew Brandt, who used to be an NFL executive, he says for all the teams, and over here, of course, Speakeasy has this like image on YouTube saying the Ravens are dirty. Again, this is last night before even a fraction of the information comes out. Andrew Brandt says for all the team sources saying they won't deal with the Ravens again, he said, well, yes, they will. He says, I remember being tipped at a team or an agent, but when they had a player that we wanted, we were all good again. He says the Ravens did what they had to do. They'll deal with any hard feelings. And that's just it. There might be some hard feelings, but will it meaningfully impact business? I don't think so.
And Andrew's tweet went out just for, time purposes prior to the Trey Hendrickson dealing. So
Yeah.
that was out this morning prior to the news breaking. So certainly he is on to something there. And at the end of the day, Sarah, this is business. This is high stakes business. And something tells us that the Ravens aren't done doing business this offseason.
Well, and I just want to say on the Raiders side of business, okay, it was reported by Albert Breer that the Raiders will honor all the agreements. They're going to honor all the agreements they made with free agents over the last 72 hours, 48 hours when he wrote this. He says by their own and incoming guys. So they're going to honor it for both. And they do have the cap space. He says over the last 40 hours, despite the sudden developments of the last night, all options remain in play with Maxx Crosby. Vegas is certainly very open to keeping him. And as you said, it's already been reported that he's back in the building working out as of this morning.
After taking what looked to be a private plane, private jet type ordeal back from what seems to be, you would think, Baltimore. What a turn of events for all parties involved. And what a Wednesday it is right now with over 8,300 concurrents. Back to Super Chats we go. Appreciate you guys for being with us. If you haven't already done so, please like the video if you could. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell. Consider becoming a channel member or gift-giving membership this offseason with us. We left off with did we leave off with Rafike? Did we have this up from Rafike, Sarah?
We did have that up. Yep, I read that one.
Did we have Kobe's up? Yes, we did. We also had White Broccoli's up. This is what happens when I lose my spot. And MMMCB says, look at all the first-round tight ends for the last couple of years. Bowers, McBride, Colton. I forget the Colts guy, but Sadiq, sheesh.
I'll be right back. Can you do a couple more? I'll be right back. Sorry.
Yeah, but he wants you to, but hold on now. He wants you to look at Ken and Sadiq in the first round now. Come on now.
I mean, we talked about that already. I mean, I love him. But I also love Venga.
Thank you, MMMCB. ADL21 says, EDC, I'll never doubt you again. Bro tried to get Crosby and Hendrickson on the same defensive line for Minter and Weaver. Insert many men. And that edit right here in this here super chat. Thank you, ADL. He's taking swings, and something tells you that those swings, there's still more left in the tank. Thank you, ADL. White Broccoli is responding to us, Sarah. We were asking him about what he had in his left hand in his profile photo, and he says it's a Rubik's Cube. It helps with the anxiety. Plus, there's a lot of hurry up and wait in the military, so it passes time. Well, thank you for answering the question. It is not a scanner. It is a Rubik's Cube for passing time, and I'm sure anything that can calm nerves and anxiety, you're going to do when you're in your line of work, of service. You're in your line of service. That's what you do. You serve us, White Broccoli, and we appreciate you for that. Joe Jenkins is here for you.
Says, let's forget about Crosby. God's plan always wins. And Maxx Crosby basically said the same thing on Twitter this morning. He said, God doesn't make any mistakes.
Well, and he's celebrating 6 years of sobriety. So congratulations to him. That was what the tweet was that you're referring to.
The context of it, yep.
He was celebrating it last weekend in Vegas, and today, I believe, is the actual 6-year anniversary. So best wishes to him. Good luck. That's awesome.
And by the way, I do love Maxx Crosby. This bums me out.
He seems like a total authentic guy that is self-made and incredibly accomplished and savvy. I really enjoyed, Sarah, I've spent all week thus far working on things, familiarizing myself with him, watching hours and hours of content of interviews that he's done in the past. He's a media mogul, and he's going to be really setting himself up nicely for a post-second act, if you will, post-playing career, profession, whatever he chooses to do. Zayad writes, from your point of view, is there any chance we trade for Maxx again? I think he's as good as gone.
Maybe a different trade, but not Maxx.
Brian Walters says, man, I miss Likely already. He's such a great dude and had a breakout season last year. Do well, buddy.
You know what's funny about that, Bobby? Those back-to-back super chats. Ravens fans have not been able to grapple with the reality that Likely has been gone for months. And I think they're going to grapple with reality with Maxx for a while. Like, you sure we can't go get him again? We can't go back there. We can't revisit that. Maybe for one first rounder instead of two.
What breakout scene is he referring to?
Breakout season. I mean, he had close to a breakout season in 2024.
Brian, were you referring to 25 or 24? Thank you for the super chat. Kobe writes, I'll say this. Seattle dominated without a top 5 pass rusher. It's more about 4 guys being able to consistently win one-on-one matchups. Get Chubb, meaning Bradley, and we're set, who's now still available, Sarah, on the as the open market creeps closer with 4 o'clock coming right around the corner. Tony Love, for you.
The thing that separates you all from the rest is your 24/7 dedication and excellent in-depth analysis. Keep up the great work. Gives us a gold medal. Hashtag the vault. I actually got to give you a shout out. You've been going longer. I had guests in town. I know you texted me. What was it at 11 o'clock? You're like, you want to come on? And I was like, I do want to come on, but my house is full right now. I just had to get up to let more people. I mean, this house never sleeps, Bobby. Never sleeps. I wish I could have come on with you.
Well, and you know the basis of the question. You know, it was at this point, you know, things have ballooned into a situation where I'm a part of 3 YouTube channels now. And so you'd love to spread the wealth around. You love to make sure everybody eats. But there are times like last night where I could have been convinced, should you have wanted to and been available, that we would have gone live on the Vault last night for some special emergency pod discussion. But that's why you have a personal channel, or at least I do. And so that was the point of the text. But obviously I knew that I wanted to respect your time.
I loved your text though. You're like, you awake? Where I was at last night is I went to a Dancing with the Stars tour here in Columbus.
Yeah.
Got all dressed up with some friends. It was a fun night, but I am sorry I missed it.
But you noticed that like, it was an incremental process, right? It was like, okay, 1, are you awake? Okay, good, you are.
Yeah.
Hey, 2, I'm going to go live at midnight. If you're in, it'll be on the Vault. If you're not, I'll go do it on mine.
Yeah.
And you were like, hey, I'd love to, but we're on our way home and it's just not going to work tonight. I said, I'll see you at noon.
Yeah.
I'll see you at noon. Thanks, Tony. Appreciate the support, man. That brings us to Nuno, who writes the best news from this mess. A Vault 2-hour draft special? Oh, first round. Yeah. We'll figure out what we're going to do. Obviously, we always like to do marathon coverage. It'll be a little bit different come the weekend this year.
Wait, but you'll be around Thursday night, the first round, right?
I am going to be around. Yes.
And now that we're back into the first round, the big night, you'll be here for it, and I'll figure out Friday and Saturday and Sunday.
The question prior to last night was, are we even doing anything on Thursday without a first round pick to cover?
Right.
And now the question is, hey, do we want to revert back to what we typically do on opening night? And then what will you be able to pull off come the weekend?
Right.
I know that I will. I mean, I'll just keep saying this, so hopefully people are aware, since we have such a high traffic today. I have best man duties in my college roommate's wedding that weekend in Baltimore. So unfortunately, I've known about it for over a year. You've known about it for over a year, and that is what is coming up next month. So we'll figure out what the move is, hopefully get you some help depending on what you're willing to commit to over the weekend. And we will let you guys know when we have that fully ready to go. So Nuno says the best news from this mess is a Vault first round draft special. Let's go. Give me Bane or Vanga. And Tomatoes here, Sarah.
Said I wanted Maxx, but he stubbornly played on that knee, possibly causing long-term tissue damage. Zero reason for the Ravens to do this unless there was valid concern. We got Trey. Now get Chubb for cheap. Is Chubb going to be released?
Bradley
Chubb, yeah.
Bradley's a free agent.
Bradley's a free agent. Why is it listing him not as a free agent? I think this has happened to me before.
I thought in my research this week, I thought that he was getting ready to hit the open market here. Later this afternoon.
I mean, I'm reading an article right now. What's the date on this? March 11th, 2026. Could Bradley Chubb be released? I don't know.
Pretty confident that
Like
that he's a free agent. soon, a pending free agent as of 2 hours from this minute. It's 2:00. We're 2 hours out from the league year beginning, and I'm pretty certain about that.
Yeah, that's just weird. This article is steering me wrong here.
Yeah. Thanks, Tomato. Appreciate you for being with us.
Yeah,
Prime
he's
time.
a free agent as of February 16th, 2026. I don't know what that article was saying.
All good.
Okay.
Primetime says, I called off work, get some whiskey, and got drunk with friends when we got Max. You think I can get my money back from the liquor store? Let us know how that works out. The DJ says, Mina Kimes suggesting adding Clowney. What say you? You know, he had his chance to stay in Baltimore, Sarah, after a wonderful 23 resurgent season in the AFC Championship run that they went on, but he took a bag from Carolina and struggled as a Panther. I know it was close to home for him, but yeah, I mean, wouldn't it be something if Calais Campbell took over for Brent Urban in that role that he's played?
Calais and the Brent Urban role, I'm here for.
Yeah.
But when we're talking about, you know, a Maxx and Trey Hendrickson together, and then you take out Maxx and then put in Clowney, it's not as exciting.
No,
And
it's
you wonder
not.
if, like, I want to go back and look at what the Vikings were hoping for Grenard. Obviously, Bradley Chubb that we're just talking about. But Clowney's a little bit older.
They got a lot out of him in 23, but remember who was having an all-pro year in the middle there. Nnamdi went off that year. He went nuts that year and maybe inflated slightly KVN's and Jadeveon's seasons. Not taking away anything from those guys in 23.
Mm-hmm.
But Nnamdi had an all-pro historic season for them in the interior. Ty Riggs says, don't trust Eric. He cost us. Hashtag defund the defense. Need to put money into the offense like the defense. Lamar is the franchise. Protect and give him weapons. Ty, thank you.
Yeah. Obviously, the defense helps, but I agree with him, especially on the protecting him.
Well, Nate. Oh, sweet Nate. Nate is a Ravens fan. His handle is at Hamilton_DPOY. And he went nuclear online yesterday in a tweet that went stupid viral. He tweeted out less than an hour before the Maxx Crosby Knicks trade went down that he stands on business. And on March 4th, when he tweeted that if they happened to trade for Crosby, he would completely shave his head. And because he stands on business, he made sure to confirm that he did indeed shave his head. And he let everybody know, Sarah, 45 minutes prior to learning that the trade no longer existed.
You know, Nate is going to be like the Raiders and have to learn tough lessons, which is that you never count on a deal until everybody is signed on the dotted line. This is just, how old do you think Nate is? He looks like he's a little bit younger. The tough, you know what? He's going to grow it back, though. He's going to grow it back. But this will be a lesson. Nothing is in place until all parties have signed on the dotted line.
We've talked about Ricard and the rest of these New York Giant arrivals for former
New York Ravens.
The New York Ravens joining the LA Ravens. So Ricard, Stout, Washington, and likely so far. And Ricard continues his former undrafted career. Sarah, good for him. He'll join the New York Giants. Jake Hummel, who spent just the 2025 season in Baltimore as a special teamer and reserve inside linebacker, has signed a 2-year deal, or will sign a 2-year deal with the Houston Texans.
I was kind of hoping they'd keep him.
Good, solid special teamer, certainly. Romeo Dobbs, who some of you have been calling for, is going to New England to be the Diggs replacement. Expected to be 4 years, $70 million for the former Packers wide receiver. And Sarah, Elton Jenkins, who you've done some research on this week, landed in the division. And as the Browns completely rebuild their entire offensive line, he will likely become a starter for them. After Green Bay released him in a cap casualty move, played in just 9 games a year ago, had a serious injury, which included ligament damage. But Cleveland seems to be okay with that because they signed him to a 2-year, $24 million deal with a $20 million guarantee.
Okay. I mean, what is the Ravens' plan at center? It can't just be the draft. They have to have a veteran. Usually the Ravens make sure via free agency, all major needs have been addressed through free agency so that they're not desperate in the draft. He was like a last minute addition because he was cut. So I really want to know what the Ravens are going to do at center.
The Browns know what they're doing.
There's still 1 hour and 54 minutes until the new league year. Are they going to try to go get Linderbaum back?
Goodness gracious. Look at Cleveland. They've traded for right tackle Titus Howard, signed guard Zion Johnson, signed guard and center Elton Jenkins, like we just mentioned, and re-signed Tevin Jenkins. Still just trying to figure out what their future is at left tackle. So they have the 6th overall pick in next month's NFL draft. And Todd Monken continues to conduct business in year 1 as the next head coach. Look at him there with that orange tie. Looking good, Todd. There you have it. Patrons, Toey and Steven, thank you both for believing in what we're building. Appreciate you guys for the continued support that you give this channel. Have the generosity and support of your own hearts through Patreon. If you guys are interested in doing the same this offseason, you can visit patreon.com/Ravens Vault Podcast to learn more about what we're offering over there. Connect with us on social media if you don't already. Sarah can be found at SG Ellison in the X or Twitter space. For me, both Instagram and Twitter, same handle, at Bobby Baltimore. That O in Baltimore is a 0. You want to become a channel member, click the join feature. It's a great way to support the program. And days like today, boy, we feel the support, Sarah. 8,300 plus concurrently watching as we get into hour number 3. We are now north of 2 full hours. Had a blast today chronicling all of this with you.
Well, I do want to add one thing. So we don't know exactly what Lamar Jackson's restructure looks like. Spot Rack has an estimate. Okay, it's an estimate. So they've got him estimated at having a cap hit of $34 million this year. That's basically a $40 million drop, right, from 75. If that is indeed the case, Spot Rack has him next year, the final year of his contract with a cap hit of $85 million, plus in 2028, when he's not under contract, a cap hit of $42 million. If they don't get an extension done, they better win the Super Bowl this year.
I'm saying. Right. And
they got to get an extension done.
Last time it took till draft week. That was the last time.
That's the last time. They got to get an extension done, Bobby.
Yeah. And he was non-exclusively franchise tagged leading into that decision. A little bit different these years later.
You guys can say it's not Lamar's problem, but it's $85 million next year. And
That's
he's going to still, if they don't win a Super Bowl this year, he's going to still want to win it the next year and be protected.
That's a big problem.
And again, I'm not making it Lamar's problem, but again, Lamar would make a lot of money with the new extension.
Y Big says New York will be running back bad Ravens play calling. And JS19 Ravens says reports that they wanted both Trey and Crosby from Schefter seems like a cop-out. Couldn't imagine them justifying both. Any chance you think they circle back with the Raiders?
All you got to do is ask Trey Hendrickson, because he told Adam Schefter it was his understanding that he'd team up with Maxx Crosby. So if it's a cop-out, why is Trey Hendrickson saying it?
As far as Jonathan Grenard, remember Jeremy Fowler's report from a couple days ago?
Yeah.
He's a name to watch this week, he says. Edge rusher from Minnesota. A lot of teams have been in on this one. Will likely involve a day 2 pick if a trade gets done. Teams know he wants a new contract as part of the deal. He's got 2 years and $38 million left on his current one.
How much did you say? That's a small print for me.
2 years, $38 million left on his current one. He wants a new contract as part of the deal.
Gotcha.
That from Fowler. as we just consider and pontificate on what might be next for them, if something is indeed next from an activity standpoint. BME says, collective tonight? Wellness check on Jay-Z. Poor guy. Let's check the group chat.
Yeah. What's going on in the group chat over there? The collective group chat.
Cole, 2 hours ago. What do you guys think about going tonight?
Jeff,
I want to read this.
forget you guys.
I'm reading this before I read it.
I'm done carrying your guys' butts.
Look at him. Whatever. I won't read it, but he's game time decision. He's busting his butt. So we'll see.
I bet.
What you can ensure is that if collective's not on, I will be, certainly. And if there's another trade, who knows? You and I might be. So we'll see what happens. Needless to say, huge thanks to all of you for really just a seismic show. I mean, this was a ridiculous show that we just did over the last 2 hours, and it does not go unnoticed the way you guys showed up in droves and supported us. 94 super chats, 8,300 plus concurrents, including over 1,900, and at peak, well over 2,500 in the YouTube space. We both have over 3,000 in the Twitter space at the moment. So seriously, you guys make this fun. We hope that you enjoyed it. We want to say thank you to Kelsey Conway for her support. We will have multiple episodes, or at least one dropping in repurposed form coming up this afternoon. Thanks to Brendan for continuing to edit and edit well for us on the back end. Taking a lot off of my plate, which is awesome. For Sarah, I'm Bobby signing off from this Wednesday Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. Stay tuned for more. Turn on the notifications. Like the video on your way out. And if you find yourself watching the program and you haven't yet subscribed, please do. We're coming up on that 30,000 subscription count number. Not as close as I once thought earlier on in the program, but hopefully we'll get there at some point soon. And 97G on our way out.
Deal Trey might be good deal to offer Zay also.
Thanks,
Just
G.
saying, yeah.
Enjoy it, man. Enjoy it. And Voltrons, we appreciate you for all the support that you give us on a daily basis. We will be back at noon tomorrow, if not before. For Sarah, I'm Bobby signing off. We appreciate you, and we'll see you soon back here inside the vault.